Hey, everybody. This is Chris Joseph with my podcasting partner, Nicole Snyder. And I think, Nicole, we're in season 3 now, right?
Yes, this is it.
This is that's so anticlimactic. Yes, this is it. There's no fanfare, no
No,
drums or anything like
no.
that. We are here to talk with Martin Shore, director of the very recently released documentary, Take Me to the River, New Orleans. Martin, welcome to Talking Threadheads.
Well, thank you both for having me. Look forward to chatting.
Us too. So let's just jump right in. Tell us about your background and about your association with New Orleans and its music.
My background is I started playing drums when I was 6 years old, when public schools actually gave private lessons in school. I was called out of English class, and that was much to my delight. And was been playing music pretty much ever since. I started as a professional musician, and then transitioned into doing music for film, and then producing film, always with the eye of having getting to the director's chair, and have been a pretty active music producer over the years as well. New Orleans was always a very kind of mystical place to me growing up. I had the great fortune and luck to have a really great drum instructor who turned me on to Stax and turned me on to Memphis Soul, High Records, and that's kind of what I really cut my teeth learning on. But you couldn't you couldn't get away from drifting over towards New Orleans, and so there was a fascination that I always had. And when I first went to New Orleans, I was actually playing, and we had a day off the next day and night, and I really just dug in and fell in love with the culture, the people, the music, the heritage, the legacy, and going to Jazz Fest way back then. I'm not going to put years on it, but it was really quite a laid back, nice festival that you couldn't help but immerse yourself in the culture, the cuisine, the people, and the history and legacy, the heritage. It was all kind of wrapped up in one thing. As you kind of walked around the city, everything's sort of connected.
Yeah, I feel that. So since our podcast is primarily about Jazz Fest, I'm going to ask you about Jazz Fest. You said that you first went, you can't remember when. Neither can I, so solidarity there. Have you been back recently?
Yes. We had a nighttime jazz fest show at the House of Blues this past Jazz Fest on Thursday, May 5th. It was out at the fairgrounds both for a little bit on Thursday with an interview with WWZ, and then after an interview with WWZ, and went out Friday, and we were in the record tent, and I caught a couple sets, and then was out there just for a minute on Saturday. But yeah, it was nice to see it back in full throttle, full heat, full everything.
Yeah.
It was nice, after 3 Jazz Fests being canceled, it was just really great to see it going full bore.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was kind of like the essence of I'm just happy to be here, And a lot of I think what I normally like fuss about, I just wasn't fussing about, So
Yes, yeah, it's I always loved the fact that New Orleans music is mostly featured, so no matter which stage you would walk to, good chance it would be a Louisiana or New Orleans based band.
Yeah. This year especially, I really felt that way. Like I felt like there was more stage time to the regional artists later in the day than usual. So I don't know if that is supported by actual research, but that's the way it seemed to me.
Right, right,
All
right.
right, so yeah. Sorry to derail the conversation there. So the film is called "Take Me to the River, New Orleans." Give us some background how it came about.
Well, I did. This is a second in a series of films. The first was about Memphis and the Mississippi Delta, Memphis being the collecting point. Um, and the next likely stop was for sure New Orleans. Initially, I had an epiphany that the story of where American music really came from hadn't been really told properly, and the Mississippi Delta really is the birthplace of American music that helped inspire and influence popular music around the world. New Orleans, although in parallel in the beginning, because it all started with field songs and call and response and um, songs in the field. New Orleans was a collecting point of inspirations and influences from the world. And so it's really the first example of world music. In the case of Memphis, it was American music. And I thought both of those stories needed to be told in a more, I guess you would say, an evergreen or a living, what I call my style of films, living documentary, where you can come back to it in 3 months, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years, and it still seems as fresh as we learn the process, the creative process of legacy musicians, as well as stars of today. And we make new music, but we learn about the history of where it's from and how it got to where it is and where it's going.
What were the challenges of getting this documentary made?
Every turn, every corner. We are a nonprofit, and our mission is to get music back into public schools, and to make music education and music history available to everyone, and also get instruments into students' hands. So, as a nonprofit, we're really at the behest of people's extra time. It's not that we don't pay, we do. It's at the lower end of the scale, so it just takes longer, to sort of capture what you're looking for. And so I would say the biggest challenge is, first finding the money, but the second thing is really just making what you do have work as hard as it can. The independent world is kind of like, I liken it to Conan on the wooden wheel, like, you're dragging boulders up a hill all the time. So I would say that the challenges are sort of every day, really. But that said, it's a joyful process. The post production on a show like this is formidable. We shot 8 cameras, literally 1,000 hours of footage to go through, which is only made possible in the digital age. But it's voluminous, and it's just media management becomes a big part of what you do. And it really becomes a all out directed line to getting it right and to make sure that it plays for the hometown. If it plays for the hometown, then it'll play for everybody in the world. And that's not easy to get it right for the hometown. You really have to spend a lot of time. And then, there's the decisions of what makes it and what doesn't. And, there's some amazing sessions that didn't make it into the film, made it onto the record. But some, it's hard, when you have those friends and family screenings and folks come and they realize they didn't make it into the film, those, potentially I make more out of it than it in actuality becomes. But I think almost all the musicians know it's not about their performance, but the overall messaging, the overall impact, the overall, messaging is what's important.
Was the pandemic a factor in the making of the movie?
Absolutely.
How so?
It delayed the process about 2 years that we were really in a start, stop environment. And since I had the great fortune of having got a scholarship to Skywalker, I mixed my films at Skywalker, and it's beautifully shot in 4K, and I just was not ready to abandon the movie experience. So it was a difficult time, a time, we all went through our challenges, but for us in this industry, if you really have a vision of the way you would like those fans that are interested, and those movie viewers that are interested in really seeing it in a communal way, in the best way possible, then the pandemic just was a very hard start-stop time. And then, come February, and around the second week of February, everybody just pressed the pedal to the metal and said, okay, we're back, let's go. And it was a tremendous rush to the marketplace. And it's a lot in the marketplace right now, which is really great. I do think things will kind of find its more traditional rhythm, meaning, in terms of spacing some of this stuff out. But literally overnight, we were, planning the theatrical, planning the drop of the record to coincide with that, and then having a live tour. And this was all at the same time. So it was it wasn't quite the anticipated rollout sequencing, but we're getting there.
So take us back to that joy you mentioned in capturing the joy. Can you tell us a few stories about making the movie that make you smile?
Oh, there's so many of them, really. I mean, Nicole, I have to tell you, it's just a joyful community. The once you're accepted into that community, which is not easy, it's you just find that it's such a collectively cooperative, supportive community, pretty much like none other. And it's always been that way, because the way music was disseminated through families and neighborhoods traditionally, it's been communal from the beginning. But the great thing is it's stayed that way, even through tremendous challenges like Katrina, and recently, Ida, and these kinds of, and the pandemic, these kinds of gut punches. So the joy is really watching and allowing them to, create together in a way that seems completely natural to New Orleans music community. In terms of stories, there's a lot of them. Certainly seeing the Neville family together, which unfortunately turned out to be the last time ever that they were together playing and performing. But seeing it come together on the floor, and to have Ivan and Ian playing with their fathers, and George Porter Jr. being there, that was certainly an incredibly magical moment that I think anyone who was there, and hopefully the viewer feels exactly the same way we did, was just incredibly moving and magical. You know, there's all kinds of you know, funny stories, but you know, the most memorable ones are the ones that you feel like you can't get back. And you know, being with Dr. John for the day, we became good friends. He didn't have to hang out as long as he did, and he chose to hang out for a while. And you know, kind of laughing it up and joking it up with Fifth Ward Weeby. Those are some of the things that are most emotional, you know, to me. You know, in terms of sort of just magical moments, seeing Irma and Lettucey, that still raises the hair on the back of my neck, you know, after 1,000 times. You know, the spirit to which everybody came to the sessions was really great. And I don't think there was ever sort of a moment where it wasn't working. You know, there was a couple moments in Memphis where it just, you know, unfortunately, it just didn't work, but we would pivot and make it work. But I would say, you know, that there wasn't really a session that, well, maybe there was one.
That doesn't matter now, right?
but you know, that wasn't, yeah, you could argue it's sort of a de facto New Orleanian, and you know, somebody who had great history there but hadn't been there for years and years and years. So I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I mean, if you ask me specifically about, you know, the backstory of some of the stuff, is some of it is you know, absolutely you know, unimaginable in some ways. But.
So where can one see this movie?
Because I really want to see it now.
Well, it's rolling out across the country. On Wednesday, we open 18 new markets, including, it'll be at the Ritz in Philadelphia.
I can do that.
Yeah, that's this Wednesday. It's also playing for a week at the Bryn Mawr Film Center in your area. In terms of LA, it's already whizzed through the Laemmle Santa Monica, as well as the Alamo Draft House and the Laemmle in, I think it was NoHo. So it's already kind of come and gone, but for all the cities, we opened with LA and New York just after a 1 week exclusive in New Orleans. Go to the website, takemetothe-river.org. It'll have all the listings of all the different cities. I believe we're coming to 40 cities across the country, with, you know, some being week or 2 week long engagements, some being a one day only special screening. So check local listings once you check the website to make sure of screening times and you know, the regularity of the screenings.
Will it eventually be made available online?
Yes. So we did drop a record, as you both know, on the 29th of April. So once we kind of get through the theatrical, which is sort of middle of June, and also have had a chance to properly, you know, position and promote the record, we're now finished our small live tour run. So I would project that by early fall, you know, September-ish, it will be online.
Cool. So what's next for you?
Huh. Well, I've committed to doing one more, at least. And there's a couple places that are sort of most interest, I guess, at this point. I'd love to go to a different river and go to the Thames River and do London, because I think it would be a fabulous story. I don't think the story of how that British and Irish scene kind of took our music and repackaged it and came over here and just put jet fuel in it. And I think it's a necessary story to sort of connect the dots, efficiently. I think it's touched upon in a lot of different ways in other great bodies of work, but never sort of like, okay, let's really understand this all the way through.
Right.
And a lot of those classic musicians, unfortunately, are getting older, and they're not going to be here forever. The other is Bristol, Nashville. Bristol being really the birthplace of American roots music, as well as country. And I don't think people understand that connection. That's really kind of what rolled into Nashville and became, the juggernaut that it is now. So those are two cities I'm really contemplating. London being a little, I guess, intimidating because it's such a big story. But I figure that I'm retooling the college course at Berkeley this coming semester, and then the course will start in winter. I've been teaching at the new school for the last 3 years and now moving to Berkeley, and it's more of like a fellowship sort of thing with Berkeley. So I think just after that, I'll have to make a final decision as to where I'm going and what I'm doing.
Fascinating. Do you see yourself staying in the documentary field even after you get these next couple made?
Yeah, I think so. Music films in the style to which I create is what I term living documentaries. And to me, there's a really most interesting, and they are built to stand the test of time, so that generations that come after this young generation will be able to really understand in a kind of a living way how music is, the creative process of music from legacy musicians to younger stars. And also, this idea of where did it come from and how do we pass it down? How do we make sure that the story isn't lost? And I think there's a lot of those musical communities, cities, stories that should and could be told. Another one that comes to mind is Appalachia, and the influence of instrumentation that it's had across all types of music. And the thing is American music still is influencing and inspiring the world's popular music. I mean, all you have to do is go to Africa with all the rapping that's coming out of Africa and India, and now the Middle East, and it's finding its way to every nook and cranny, and influencing those indigenous forms of music, and combining the two into modernizing the sound of their popular music.
Well, this is great. We want to remind our listeners to go out and see the documentary, Take Me to the River, New Orleans. We've been talking with Martin Shore, the director. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Oh, y'all are really great. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm a big fan of, all things Jazz Fest. So the information that you bring is great, because anytime you go below the surface of what you might call New Orleans culture, it's extremely rich. You know, the soil is like super rich. You know, what you
I
all
like-
are doing is really great. I'll just mention too that we do have a double LP box set with a coffee table book. It's beautiful. That's available on Amazon and anywhere else that you buy independent vinyl. And also the digital release is now out, so you can stream it or download it wherever you normally do. And please look for our live tour coming in the fall to also augment our online debut.
Wait a minute, before we wrap up, where's the tour playing?
We just finished. We were in New Orleans, New York City, Philadelphia,
Mhm.
St. Louis, Nashville.
Awesome. I missed it. Sorry.
Ah, it's
I was-
okay. You know, we had, amazingly enough, we had really good, great crowds. So soon after Jazz Fest,
Yeah.
and it was really amazing.
That's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, that was the problem for me. I was in New Orleans for 3 weeks. I had
Yeah.
to weed the garden, you know.
Yeah, you had
At some
had
point.
to do other things. Yeah, totally, totally.
That's cool though. I mean, it speaks to, I mean, I know I go out to shows here, the audience is here. People are thirsty for this information. So I'm really glad that you're taking your passion for this and making it into something that people can access in so many different ways and engage in. And as you said, it's living, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so thank you for doing that.
Well, Nicole, tell me what you think after Wednesday.
I will. Well, we have an interview Wednesday night. I'll make it there at some point though.
Okay. All right. Well, please do. And if you need a screener, let me know. You know, I can hook you guys up with that.
Cool. All right.
But I do want you to see it in a theater. So
I'm
you have
going
to-
to.
So you have to promise that even if you do watch the screener, you have to see it the second time in the theater.
All right. Promise. The
Okay.
promise has been made.
Great. Well,
Martin, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you both, and keep on doing the good work.
Thanks.
Awesome. You too. Thank you.
Thank you.